Hello, today I'm going to go over how I made Cave. Cave is this video I use Photoshop, After Effects, and Clip Studio. I'm cutting out photos and then I'm doing adding some animation, and then I'm doing a parallax, right? I'm pulling different things at different speeds. I got the idea after driving around a mountain and noticing how things work in a kind of strange parallax. So I wanted to create this feeling of this cave that you could never actually get to, this kind of fantastical cave that's lit with these colors that I'm from the St. Louis side of Illinois, St. Louis side of Illinois, and they use these lights to light these up, these fantastical things. And so I made this interior cavern that you kind of spin around. It's a seamless loop; it never stops. And you're welcome to, of course, watch that if you want to see what I do or how it actually looks. So again, I use After Effects, Photoshop, and Clip Studio. Here's what it looks like in After Effects. You can see it's a ton of layers, right? All these layers in After Effects. Let me go to Photoshop first to kind of show how things are set up. And so in Photoshop is where I set up the actual stage. Okay, well, you don't want to go over there, huh? There you go. So yeah, here's an example, right, of sort of the ground, right? Let me zoom in here as you can see. So I have the ground. I have different types of grounds. I just cut up a photo, right? And you can see that, of course, it repeats, and that there's information behind this, so that if this moves, if this goes up and down, whatever I have it do, it doesn't just get cut off. And that's kind of how you have to set it up if you want to do something similar, right? All these things actually are separate, but then there is information. The photo behind it is there in case there's any gaps that it looks normal. Yeah, let's go over some of the things that I'm doing. Yeah, of course, I'm just cutting things out of photos I find online. I didn't take any of these shots. I thought I'd show this one real quick. So this one looked like this as a photo I found online. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to cut these off so that these could move at a separate speed than this, so that it actually felt like it was in 3D. And so you can see it's right here, but I've cut that off. And so let me just show you quickly how I do that. I do have other tutorials that show you how to do this in collage, but I typically just use this tool right here. I'm using CS5 because I hate Creative Cloud. I hate it as a service. I think it's a horrible business practice. I think it's fascist. It's horrible. So I use CS5 still whenever I can. We'll see how much longer that lasts. But I use this tool here, make the brush smaller. I'm using open and close parentheses and just grabbing it, right? And then what I do is I do a layer via cut, probably. You could do layer via copy also. But I do a layer via cut, right? So that it's cut off and you can't see it anymore. Get that guy back. And so the idea is now I need to fill this area. And so what I typically do is I just hold down Control on PC and click on this, and to get that selection back, go to this layer, and I'm going to just first off try to fill this with content aware. So I go up to edit, let's see here, fill, and use what's called content aware and click on OK. And then see if that works. I deselect Control D, and then I might come in here and fix this better with either the Band-Aid tool first, so I can kind of let Photoshop figure it out to kind of highlight these areas that look wrong. Or I can, of course, use the rubber stamp tool. This project, I did this a while ago, so I don't exactly remember which way I worked. But now this is cut off, and now this can move separately, right? So that when it moves in the video, it's not just a gaping hole. And so I did that for a lot of things in the cave. Either like I needed a different shape, or I need to do something like this where that it's all in one photo, but I want it to pass at a different speed. I would use that selection method and content aware. This background that I found online, and then I made it a seamless tile so that, let's just show you right here. Go to Filter, Other, and Offset it. You can see that you'll notice no line. So I'll show you how to do that. That can work with any photo, of course. So even this one here, I'm going to make this a seamless tile left to right so that it could scroll forever, similar to the old cartoons where you see the people running down the same hallway for 20 minutes. So I'm going to go again to Filter, Other, and Offset, and I'm offsetting it to the left or to the right, and then I make sure that Wraparound is selected. So make sure these settings are set for you to do the same thing. Hit OK, and then it's just about solving this line, right? Like fixing this line. And you can try that any number of ways. I typically just start with the Band-Aid tool, to see if Photoshop can figure it out itself. I'm sure with the new versions of Photoshop, it's even better at this. And then just fix this line any number of ways that you want. Right? And yeah, so I'm not going to spend all day here doing it, but like you get the idea. Once you get that solved, this is now a seamless tile, and it can loop forever in After Effects. In this case, on the stage, what I did is I just put a bunch of them together, right? So that I could scroll them at a speed and not worry about it. All right? Just to show you some more things, how I cut them up and then brought them in. So I probably started with this stage to start with, and then later on made separate things that, oh, I want this here and this there. And of course, you'll notice that the stage is much bigger than your typical width of a video. So think about it in terms of theater. Like the set designs are bigger than the actual stage, right? They go behind the stage, they go behind the curtain, they scroll past, they move in and out. So for my brain, it's just easier to see it like this and imagine it, and then come into After Effects and change that. So let's go to some Clip Studio stuff. Clip Studio, I have other tutorials that show you how to animate, but this is the program that I use to animate. And so I put some little animations on top. This one right here, you can see the water kind of coming down in a loop. In my tutorial about animation, I go over how to easily do loops, so watch that if you have interest. I also made these ones where, you know, it drips off the, is that a stalagmite? I always forget the one on the ground. But you have this, you know, this effect. So makes a plop, and that's all I animated frame by frame. I think I like the way that looks. And then I just make the drop as a still. So you see that doesn't do anything. You could reanimate this twice just to add some animation if you wanted to. You don't have to. And then what I'm gonna do is in After Effects is I'm going to, right, pull this, right, in position to here, probably behind that stalactite, and then have the splash play is what I did, right? And let's go to After Effects to kind of go over what happens here. So yeah, there's a lot going on here, right? This is where I bring everything in. You'll notice that there's a lot here, right? It does get complicated, but I thought I'd talk about the basics. For one, I'm doing parallax, so things move, right? It feels like you're moving in the space. The things that are closer to you move faster than the things that are in the middle. My idea is that it's spinning, so the back actually moves as fast. The back here moves as fast as the front. And so how I set that up is, where are you at? I set up these null objects first. So you'll see these little squares right here. These are just null objects that I'm moving in position. So I'm gonna press P for position to show you what's going on. I just set them up to move at different speeds. So I have this one going from this point to that point. And then I added a expression to that, right? And this one is just this expression. So this is just a continue expression. I'm telling it to loop out forever, right? So and then that way all I have to do is change 2 points. So if I wanted to move faster, right, I just move this point closer. If I wanted to move slower, I move it out farther. And then so I make these null objects moving at different speeds. And then all I do is I attach these cutouts that I have to these particular null objects. So, you know, the one probably moves the fastest. I don't remember exactly how I did it. And then the 7 is the back. And so then I just go to this and then attach, go to this. You'll see that I just pick whip it right here to one of those null objects so that it's kind of all on that plane. I don't do any 3D stuff. I keep it 2-dimensional and just move it as a null object. I find that easier for my mind and how I think about things. You can, of course, set up a 3-dimensional plane and spin around a camera if you want, but I found this way just to be much easier for this project. And yeah, and that's kind of, I mean, it's kind of the basic part of it. And then things just move, right? If you want to make, let's go to one part where it actually like has a drop right here. So you'll see this guy has a drop. And so all I did with that one, I can't even find where that's at, so you'll have to excuse me for a second here. Can I click on that? It's under so many different layers. There it is. All right. And then let's press P for position just to see where it's at. And here it is, right? So And so I just attach, what I do is I have this blue drip AVI. So I made a should probably turn off the blue here so you can actually see what's going on. So I made a loop of that drip coming down, and I'm just pulling that in After Effects, right? And then making the splash. And I just make that loop forever in After Effects. And then I just attach that. You can see I pick whip that to the one that I want it to happen to, right? And then move it into place. And so then it follows it forever, right? And it drips. And so I have all kinds of things like that, right? I have water coming down here. I have ripples here. And it's just about making that animation in Clip Studio and then overlaying it in After Effects, setting it to loop forever. If you want to loop something forever, just right click, interpret footage main, and here you can tell it to loop however many times you want. There's any number of ways. You can also add a expression to that, but I can go over that too. And then the last thing is this is a seamless loop, so it loops forever, right? And how I did that was I started at the beginning here, and I have these null objects moving in this way. So you can see everything that existed at this point in time, I just put a little marker on everything. And then I duplicated them, right? And told these null objects to have an expression to also not only loop out forever, but to loop in forever at the speed they come in. And then just copied them at the end so that, yeah, you can see. So for example, here's cave floor 10, right? It's a duplicate of this one, but now here, so that you'll see it kind of approach it. So I did that first and then figured out the middle, if that makes sense. I wanted this to loop forever. So I started at the beginning here, right? Started moving things. You can see like things actually pop in because they don't exist. The movie doesn't actually start until now. I started that. I said, oh, I want it to be about this long. So I duplicated those layers, moved them to exist there so that they actually come into that space, right? And then figured out the in-between by putting in more stuff. And that, is it. That's how I did it. And so you don't have to do anything this complicated if you work with Parallax or if you work with Photoshop and Clip Studio, but just to show you that you can. And any questions, just ask. Thanks.